million, plus of all the melting from West Antarctic and Greenland and Antarctica. They predicted in the near future, we're talking a rise of 20 meters in the ocean. Now, you topple that with the magnetics and the throwing off the birds and the whales. Can you imagine even the sea life with a raise of 20 meters? It's really going to mess things up. And unfortunately, it's like a chain reaction, a domino effect through everybody.
It is. And that's what's really scary. Yep. And you know, again, like I was talking about bears in Alaska starving to death because there's not enough salmon coming up like they normally do for their runs. So these poor bears are dying because of it. Then you also have the polar bears, you know, they're drowning out there because, you know, they get onto the ice, right? It breaks up. Then they start floating out in the ocean. And next thing you know, they're on a little ice cube and then they try swimming back in and they drown.
Yeah, they rescued one here, what was it, last year or year before, that they found it was like 150 miles away from its natural habit, you know, from the shoreline, basically. And they had to send, I'm trying to think who it was, one of our Navy ships or somebody, military anyway, went out and they actually towed it back with him on it. You know, so he could get back to shore, get back to land. It was quite astonishing.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people are in denial about what's going on with Earth changes. Mm-hmm. And it's speeding up. You know, it seems like every week you read the news, depending on where you read it naturally. And again, Clarence, the news is all fake. We all know that, right? It's none of it's true, okay? Somebody sits in a back room and writes the news and gets paid for writing the news. They don't even look at TV. They just come up with the news story. But the thing is, between Antarctica, you know, which is now speeding up faster and faster, Greenland, Iceland, all these places, you know, I mean, we had some royal family members checking on, like, Greenland, like, where's the ice? Where's all this? It's gone pretty much. And it's scary. And I have a friend that lives in Florida, and he said, like, there's a town in Florida, which is like a couple miles away from the sea. But when the tide comes in, the manholes, like, all of a sudden start shooting out water.
Sure. Yeah. And you're going to see it like that. New York City is going to be another one. All these major places that are along the shorelines and stuff, you're going to see a lot of changes going on there, you know. It's pretty crazy. Not only that, but, you know, we were talking about animals and stuff like that. Look what's happening to the human race right now with all these people doing these crazy, idiotic things going on and whatever. And I honestly believe that has something to do with it. I really do.
Well, I don't know. What I read the wacky news, right, James, every night for the last 2 weeks. I see the craziest stories I've ever seen in my life. You know, can you believe, Clarence, if you go into Shanghai, that you go into this restaurant and if you have to use the bathroom, they don't allow you to wipe your own self. They have a staff member wipe you down.
Oh, my God.
Ain't no way.
Yeah.
Ain't no way. I've gone to the bathroom in some crazy places, but never have I ever had anybody do it for me.
Yeah, they took one of these, like in Japan, where they have self-cleaning toilets, where you sit on it and it scrubs you. They took it one step farther. I mean, only in the Orient they come up with this stuff. It's crazy, and that reminds me.
Touch.
That reminds me. Do you know if you stole not a calf, but a bull's penis, and you take it into China, or do you take it to Japan, you would have enough money to live on it for a couple months because that's how much money it brings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't doubt that a bit.
And the reason I'm saying that's what they're doing with abducting people and these cattle mutilations. Hey, maybe the Chinese have developed a UFO and they're abducting and doing cattle mutilation. That's one way to get them.
Oh my God.
I got an idea about the mutilations and stuff that no one's ever thought of, but that's, you know,
go
we
ahead.
can talk about that sometime.
Go ahead. We got a couple minutes. Clarence, go ahead.
Well, actually, I had this idea, and that maybe they're using the blood and the stuff from the cows to actually reform a different planet someplace. And maybe this is how the dinosaurs and stuff like that were here on Earth, by using DNA from other animals, and they create newer animals or whatever, and they're using it, on a distant planet someplace else to restart another place,
Well, it's possible, but then I guess they're also doing that to humans too, though. So they must.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
but they made man also, so why not? Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Again, I have said before so many times on my show, think about why would the Incas, why would all the Mayas, why all these tribes going back, thousands of years ago, why would they have gold? Why would gold be precious instead of zinc or pewter or something else? Okay, which
right.
Or lead even. But no, gold was precious to them for some strange reason, and they created beautiful artworks out of it. Right? I still feel that originally our planet was full of gold, full of silver, and alien races or alien race came here to harvest our minerals of our planet, and they brought slaves to our planet to work the mines, to get the gold, to get the silver, to get the resources. And when they were done, they left them. And that's how, these various tribes, they knew, hey, they were slaves. They knew that the gold was worth something. They didn't know what, but they knew it was precious, right?
Sure.
And I think that's how that all came about. Now, I could be totally wrong, right, James?
Well, here's the thing that kind of validates what you're saying. If you look back through thousands of years, you can see that validates with the peoples of Egypt, then over in Mesoamerica, South America, Central America, all up through there. Again, there's gold. Why would they want gold? Why gold, And it kind of validates what you're saying with that theory. And I think, what's his name, Zachariah Stitchin kind of wrote a book about that also.
Yeah, he did. But, I really think that's how mankind got the start on this planet. But I do think we've been rebooted several times. And I got a funny feeling we're getting close to that happening. I mean, I don't know how much longer our planet can live. We're pumping the blood out of it for oil. And then when we take this oil out of the ground, right, we then pump water into it and say, okay, well, that makes up for the oil. A few years later, big sinkholes start developing around the area because they've taken all the oil out. Water's thinner than oil. Hey, you get sinkholes. We got that going on. We got what's going on in Japan where they're going to dump all that irradiated water into the Pacific Ocean, which is going to, kill off a lot of sea life. And the sea life that does exist, darn well, they're going to be sick. They're going to develop cancerous tumors. They're going to, kind of maybe even grow two heads. Who knows? Are you going to want to? Are you going to want to?
I'm not so sure. Go ahead.
Well, I got a funny feeling. I certainly wouldn't want to eat salmon or eat crab or eat cod or herring or whatever out of the ocean after they dump that much irradiated water into it. I know it's going to cause something. We're already starting to see fish with salmon up here with a lot of tumors on it for some strange reason.
Sure. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not going to harm the ecosystem. Definitely will. But here's the thing you got to remember. We were detonating bombs years ago in the ocean, long before any of this stuff ever happened. And, we've had nuclear tests all over the Atlantic and the Pacific and, all over the world. And it's been going on for years and years and years, Has it done much to us? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say this, Clarence. Back in off of Bikini Island, they detonated a bunch of old World War II ships. Okay?
Sure.
And the smart move that the military did is they had all these Navy sailors, within a mile of the detonation, putting goggles on to watch it detonate. The same thing over by Area 51 in Nevada. Yeah. They had all these military guys, line up to watch the bomb go off. And then 20 years later, a lot of these military people died of all types of cancers, leukemia, all kinds of cancers. Why? Because what happened when that bomb went off. I think, sea life too. I think any of the fish around that area, if they didn't get killed from the explosion, who knows what might have happened to them. We're not the ones that were eating the fish over that area. It would be other countries.
Well, that's the thing. And look at the fallout that happened with the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. Those people there are still feeling some of the effects from that stuff. And that's small compared to what we got today, So, yeah.
Well,
it all depends on how long the fallout lasts and stuff like that. The Earth does a really good job of rejuvenating itself, but you got to give it that chance to do it. You know what I'm saying? That's the key to it. The more we destroy it, the more it takes time for it to do it.
Well, that's the problem right now. We got the Earth changes going on. We got the magnetic field wandering. Here they figured in the next year or two, the magnetic field's going to kind of settle over in the UK. It was over in the Canadian Antarctic, and it's moving towards the UK right now. And it's not moving inches no more. It's moving by feet each year.
Sure.
And that is scary. And again, they don't know it could flip overnight. It could flip while I'm talking to you. We don't know what's going to happen there. We got, again, Antarctica melting. You got this past year, parts of Alaska that was under snow all year around is now cleared off and it's like mud. And they had 97-degree temperatures, which they never had and recorded, since they've been keeping track. A lot of strange things are going on all at the same time. So I don't think the Earth is going to have a chance to heal itself. We got, from the equator, that little belt of warm water goes up the Atlantic Ocean all the way up to, England and all that stuff up to, by France. And it keeps them from going in a deep freeze. That's almost stopped right now. It's slowed down. And the more Antarctica melts, that is going to stall it. Now, scientists say when that stalls, what's going to happen is it could put Europe into a mini ice age, like what happened around 1900 in Russia when people were freezing to death in their houses because, they went into a mini ice age.
Well, that's like the woolly mammoth. It had an instant freeze. They actually found carcasses of them right here in the United States that still had grass in their mouth when they died.
Oh, yeah. And then they found...
That's how fast that happened. So, well, that's a scary thought.
Yeah, and it was even worse than that because depending on where you were on this planet at the time, you either froze to death almost instantly or you were barbecued.
Exactly. Yeah, one way or the other. Yeah.
So it's crazy. Scary. I know. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to do gloom, but I think what's going on politically, they're not concentrating on our planet anymore. They really haven't. It's like hey, that's okay. You can go into Alaska and pump oil now. I don't care. Areas that have been closed off for oil and all this stuff for reasons. No, hey, it creates jobs. Okay, go ahead and do it. Why not? We don't need all those people working in the EPA. We don't need all these laws. We don't need all these regulations. California, you don't need to have a pollution on new cars. You don't need your standards anymore. This costs people money.
Yeah. What's really amazing, you were talking about Japan wanting to dump that water in the ocean. They just had that major typhoon come through there. Can you imagine them dumping that and then having that happen and it comes right back on them again?
Yeah, well, I guess what goes around comes around, Clarence. But you know what?
Would.
They're saying they can't hold it much more. They're saying maybe another 30 days. They have no more room for it. And then they're going to have to dump it. And, that is a type of radiation that's not going to break down right away.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't try boiling it. Seriously.
Well, I don't know why they didn't do what they did in Russia. Just pour a whole bunch of cement and let the reactors go on. Just keep on. Well, in their case, maybe they would come out in Nova Scotia